Welcome to Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to events that truly rock. From tips on planning and entertainment to will help you make your dream event come true. Now, without delay, let's dive into your guide to event success today.
All right, welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to event success. This is our entertainer deep dive, and today we have, I think, one of my favorite performers. He is John, Magic John. He is a walk-around magician. You know what? I start getting into these long introductions. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about what you do, and we'll go from there.
How you doing? I'm John L. Magic, and I do walk around magic and stage magic. Simply put.
Well, how about can you tell us what does that mean? So somebody that's never seen, a magician in real life before, what does that entail?
I would say walk around magic, I would say, has definitely been popularized by David Blaine street magic.
Okay.
People get to be up close and personal and experience the effect versus being on stage, you just see a large illusion, but you don't really have an opportunity to examine that illusion.
So you try to say there's something tricky going on there?
All I'm saying is that you can't examine them, And I think even for me personally, as a kid, when I watched magic on TV, I didn't exactly enjoy it, although I was intrigued by it. You would hear the term like smoke and mirrors, and not necessarily know exactly what that meant. And I'll be honest, even to this day, when it comes to stage magic, I'm still not exactly sure what the smoke and mirrors was really all about. Because I'm such a fan of magic that I leave most effects where they're at, and I just enjoy them. I really do. And unless it's something that I feel I would like to perform a variation of, or say, I would like to learn that and pay homage to the developer of that effect, I simply will leave it where they are because I'm a fan. I love watching magic.
That's amazing. I mean, and you know what? That is the right mentality to have. If you're gonna have a magician somewhere, if you're gonna watch magic in general, you should treat it as it is. So I think that's a really really smart way to approach it. You touched on something. You touched on as a kid, you were intrigued by magic. So I guess that leads me to the next question. How did you get started in magic? Was it as a kid? Was it later in life? How did you get into it?
Definitely, I would say my father. He was pretty much raised with not much of a family. There were
Okay.
people that took care of him, but he ran the streets. And in running the streets, one of the things that he had learned was three card Monte, not necessarily the magician's version, but the street magic version.
Okay.
And in knowing that, he taught me my first effect. And he said, never play three card Monte on the streets of New York ever. And this is why. And he taught me that effect. And I loved it. And I would perform it for friends and family. And it was
And that's how you
absolutely
made your
amazing.
living to start, right?
No,
Sorry, I interrupted you. Apologize.
that's quite all right because I tell that story and I actually transition into the magician's three card Monte effect because it is my father and he's my hero and he has since been passed. I love performing that and telling it as part of my story. But it was that and another effect, and he wasn't a magician. But
Hmm.
he knew this other effect, which was basically three cards in a box, where the spectators name two cards. The box is shown empty. Spectator names two cards, and the magician also names a card. And when you look inside the box and open it up, the three cards are there. He taught me that effect. And I would perform that effect for people, and it would just blow their minds. And I had no idea that I had something special and unique to perform with. And eventually, when I wanted to find something to do that I loved, versus
Hmm.
my professional life, I'm a digital marketer, but I don't love it. I'm great at it, but I don't necessarily love it versus
Sure.
performance magic.
That's a beautiful thing. That is amazing. So, I mean, when was the transition from those couple of effects that your dad taught you to actually doing, events, or even just doing more of it? Did you, is there a
Absolutely.
specific time?
It's such a great question because as I learned more effects, right? You eventually, because I was always working with cards, and then you learn about Svengali and stripper decks and razorbacks. I always just kind of had them in my possession. And I also have a lot of friends that also just like to, as a hobby, perform magic. But while I
Hmm.
was in Tucson, Arizona, a couple of friends of mine, just to name them, Vic and Ed, they brought me to Williams Magic in Tucson, Arizona. And I will always say this, maybe it was just me, but the last thing you want to do is walk into a magic shop and say, "How was that done?" Because
Uh,
the only way to learn a trick is to buy it. And so
and you
after
can
I
learn it. That's
purchased,
the key.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And when I bought that effect, I think it was Emery who has since passed. He was the owner. His son has taken it over since then. But Emery said, the tricks can pay for themselves. You're buying this, but they can
Hmm.
pay for themselves by you going out and also performing magic. And
Hmm.
you'll want to also join a club so that you can learn new magic, and you can also have people around you that can encourage you and help you with getting better. But
Hmm.
that was 10 years before I ever decided to go into performance magic, which was
Ah,
absolutely crazy. 10 years. I just sat on the information and just kept buying effects. And then it was right around the time about 2018, 2019, where, now I'm saying, okay, as I look to a different part and aspect of my life, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Because I'm not going to want to do coding and development for the rest of my life. And that's when I had realized that, I have this one hobby that I've been doing for quite some time. I was doing it for family, friends, birthday parties with family and friends, corporate
hmm.
events. I would do stuff. I just do walk around magic, and then I would actually see magicians perform. And then I decided to see, where I was at, so I put a
Hmm.
couple videos together, and I reached out to Jason Ledaney, who, before he
Okay.
became the phenom that he is today, he was simply encouraging people and coaching them in magic. And I hired him. He gave me an incredible 1 hour session. And I just loved what he broke down. He broke down shows. I mean, the energy if you've ever watched Card Magic by Jason, the energy that he has in all of those videos was the exact energy that he had in doing a coaching session with me. And that was the single most inspirational moment that I had ever spent, just sitting there and then looking at where he's at today. But I would say that the second one was after I did that, I said, well, how do you get gigs? How do you book gigs? And I was just looking online, and I'm not sure how I Googled it or stumbled upon the Instagram, but I saw that you were a entertainment business, Magical Memories. I reached out
Hmm.
to you and I said, I was humble, still am. And I said, listen, I'm just starting out. I've been encouraged to move forward with this. Just give me what you got. I'll take the bottom of the barrel, I'll scrape it. I have no qualms about saying or understanding where I'm starting from. And it was just I'm still always thankful and absolutely amazed that you said, sure. I'm just like, that's just crazy to me, and you still reach out to me, and it's just
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. It's one of the it's just inspiring, absolutely inspiring.
Well, you know what? I think there's a couple things that you said there, and that I really wanted to just touch on. And first of all, saying that you're willing to do the effort and go out there and really put the effort into it. Which, what's funny is we've had a couple of these conversations with different people, and that's been a very constant theme, is that you have to be willing to do the work and get out there and hustle for it and work hard for it. And doing that, being willing to do that is key. And another
Yeah.
thing that you said there is the fact that you put in the effort to make sure that you had what you needed. So I wasn't like you didn't reach out and randomly like who a random person. I mean, yes, random person, but not that there was no more information to it. So you had, or like you said, you had developed your information, your Instagram page a bit. So I was able to review some of the videos you had and see some of the opportunities that were there. And what I always tell people is that, I love giving opportunities to people that are getting into it, because you guys, everybody needs an opening and everybody needs an opportunity. And there's some events that that are not necessarily able to do a certain caliber of
Yes.
performer. So there's a need for that, and there's no reason. I mean, what's good about what we do is we connect the right client with the right performer. I always say there's the right
Right.
tool for the right job. Right, that's a
Yes.
classic line. So I think it's kind of key here is that, meeting people like yourself early in your career gave me an opportunity to have another tool in my tool chest to be able to turn to our clients and say, hey, you know what? I know you really want this experience. There's this guy that we haven't really done a lot of business with yet. You want to give him a shot? Just giving you a heads up. This is what it is. It's setting the right expectation. Fortunately, worked out very well. You did a fantastic job. Everybody's always been really happy with what you're doing, and it continues. And I feel very blessed that we've had the opportunity to continue doing stuff. So, you're fantastic what you do. I've seen you in person doing it. I was at an event myself while you were performing, and it was really great to just see your energy and your connection with people, and how much you could tell just in the way you're presenting yourself, how much you truly loved what you're doing. But with that said, actually, that transitions me into the next thought of what is your
And thank you, by
favorite
the way.
thing to? Absolutely, of course. I mean, what is your favorite type of event? Is there something
Uh,
specific you like to do?
Favorite events are very intriguing. It there's a weird energy that happens in all events. I think it just comes down to the performance of it all. I love doing walk around magic, but I love some of the stage effects. I just love all the effects that I have. I mean, I'm just like, I always say it. Once I get going, it's difficult for me to stop doing magic. At like you have to have a cutoff time because it's like it's not that you're doing magic, it's that you're showing somebody something really cool. Like if I don't care what it is, I'm entertained by it. If I see a juggler, I love juggling. So I love seeing people juggling. And I'm like, that's really cool. I want to see cool things. I like
Mhm.
cool people that can develop a cool web page, a coder, a developer. I like to see that. I like to see you've got the balloon artists out there. You're right. They're the balloons and the bubbles. And I think
Mhm.
that's really what it comes down to when it's just that I just have this plethora of cool things to show people. And it's also a little bit unique because it's also my style. I don't know how everybody else is doing it. I'm just like, that's how I want to do it. Certain things I do because I loved how the original performance when I originally saw it did it. So I always want to do it like that.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So I
That
would
makes sense.
definitely say, one of my favorites, I would have to say I'm closest to card magic close up, but I have a lot of cool stage effects that I love performing that you just can't do in a walk around environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Is there something that can you over your career of doing this? So, I mean, your time from when we first met, which is now several years ago, till
Yeah.
now, has your style or the way you present, to the way you perform, changed?
I think so because I was still trying to work on who am I on stage? Am I that same person that I am on at home, or am I a different type of a character? Because a lot of people do that. They're one person on stage and they're one person at home, and they're two different people, and they don't necessarily merge. And in my early development, I just wanted to make sure I was doing the effects. You're just like, I want to, at the very least, they wanted magic. They didn't pay for comedy, or they would have hired a comedian, because I know
Mm,
that there's people that do very well as a comedy magician. And I tried that, but
hmm
I don't write jokes. I'm not funny.
hmm
Certain things in comedy, yeah, we're scripted. You stick to the script. And that's what I always wanted to do. And then just add my little bit of personality into it and just have fun. And I think I'm moving more into the bigger fun, the expectation that I have these effects, I've been practicing them for years. Now go out and have fun. Specifically because it's so hard to get that practice in front of an audience, because not everybody wants to always see magic. They're just not interested, or they're
It's true.
busy. They don't have time. They don't care. Oh, yeah, that was great. They're not interested. So when it comes to a show, I look at it as you've been wanting to perform. This is now the moment to get out there and do magic. And you just
Mm,
keep going. And now I'm a guy that just loves doing magic. I have something cool to show you. And that's why it's just my name, John L. Because that I get to just be me, and you get to experience me just the way I am. And I really do enjoy it now like that.
interesting. I mean, they talk about that a lot, where you have a character. So, I mean, so you're saying that do you think you have a character, or is it just you, and who you see when you do magic is who you see, when you're at the grocery store.
I would say yes, there is a minor character that
Okay.
lends itself to the effects,
hmm
because I like to present myself as the guy that is still learning. Here's
Ah,
something
interesting.
that I'm working on,
Mm-hmm,
and it's almost
mm-hmm.
like an out, but I've realized that it kind of diffuses the audience a little bit,
hmm
because they kind of want to. Sometimes you get these audiences that want to battle the guy on stage or that's performing,
hmm
because there's a certain level of arrogance, and it's like, look, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to have a great time and entertain you. And if you're
hmm
feeling tricked, then you're not going to be entertained. But if you're
hmm
just a guy that wants to see something cool that this other guy has been working on and he's ready to show you, then you're going to have a great time. And it seems to diffuse the audience. And it's just a little bit of that I say, okay, we're going to all learn this together. And I really bring the
hmm
audience into, it's not me and you, it's all of us together having this
hmm
experience. And
mm
it's been working very well for me over the last, I would say, over the last 2 years.
That's amazing. I like that idea, and I love that mentality. It's funny. I tell people when I talk, like, so, as you know, I'm a magician as well, and when I do
Of
magic,
course.
I always say to people, I said, why do I like working and doing like kid shows? I enjoy doing like family events, children's entertainment. And the reason why I always joke around, I say the kids get my sense of humor, and for me, I tell every performer this: it's not about the effects, it's about the effects of the medium in which I can show who I am and my personality. So it's a very similar idea. Is
Yes.
you're doing the effects, but you're sharing who you are, and you are still on that journey of growing as a performer and things like that. So I love that way of going about it. That really is a nice, beautiful way of doing it. So that's cool. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. So let me think. From the effects that you do, what is your, I guess, driving force behind the reason that you still do this all the time? I think you touched on it, but is there something that you can point to that's like the
I,
reason why you
I
do
would say the driving force is the smiles that you get to put on people's faces. A sporting event team, there's only smiles when they're winning.
it?
When they lose,
That's
you
true.
you know you've disappointed your fans, and they're upset, and maybe somebody was betting on it or something. So, and I've played sports, and you have this disappointment, and you walk away kicking yourself. You missed the shot, you missed the field goal, you threw an interception, you dropped the pass. There's all these ways to disappoint, the fan base. Whereas with
hmm
magic, you have this opportunity to put a smile on somebody's face, or wow them, or show them something that they've never seen before, that they can walk away saying, oh, I just really have enjoyed that moment. And when they leave your presence, they leave your presence knowing I was in the presence of somebody that I had a good time with. Where a lot of times we have interactions in life where they're not so great, and you're
Mhm.
upset and you reflect on these negative moments that have happened to you, and you met somebody for maybe 30 minutes. You can be
Mhm.
sitting in line in the grocery store, and now you've had a bad experience with this person, and it just doesn't feel good. And at this stage in
Mhm.
my life, I'm just, looking to put more smiles on more faces. And it may sound cliche, but it's just totally true. It really is.
Mhm.
I think about all the magicians. I like you put a smile on my face. When I see you, I know that I'm gonna have a good time. My gosh, Steve, I just like I said, I look at your social media and I'm like, this guy, I know no, that's the one thing. I only know a fraction of the hard work you put in, but the level of the hard work you put in, and then the smile on your face when you put up videos and the entertainment and the shows that have been done, as well as the smiles in the audience faces and the reactions to what you're doing, and all the collective of the vendors that work with Magical Memories, because I've been able to do events with multiple vendors that have all attended. And it's like we're just there to have a good time and give a good time and give an experience. And it really is feeling like a family. And I'm so amazed and blown away by that. I don't know if it's unique. I've never really looked at other people. I'm like, but I just love what you're doing.
That's so cool. Well, thank you. I'll start by saying thank you. What's interesting is that I have always said that. I've always, I going back, I've always said the reason why I do what I do is I love making people smile,
Yeah.
and I truly do. I mean, I have a degree in marketing, I have a degree in psychology, I have a minor in communications. I always tell people, "Well, way too overqualified for what I do," but I love what I do because I truly see it as my mission in life is to try and bring joy to as many people as possible. And I sit there and I tell people about that. So I love I love that it translates. I've never really heard somebody say that, so it's really great to hear that. But also more importantly, I think it's really great that you share that same philosophy. I feel like especially in today's day and age, I can't be I mean I'm not at every event. I don't go to as
Right.
many as I once did. So to have somebody that's going to go out there and really truly deliver that mission is super important. And what's also important is that I tell people all the time, like I get to live vicariously through you guys as well when you're out there. So like if I get a photo of like you said on social media, when I see those photos coming in from clients and from performers, and we ask everybody send us stuff. It's great for the social media, but truly it's kind of a selfish thing for me. I love seeing that. I like to see to your point, it is a lot of hard work. There's a lot going on in the background, but to see that the end result is, oh, well, everybody had a really great time. Everybody was able to really enjoy
Yeah.
themselves. That it
And
makes
I
it all
gotta tell you,
worthwhile.
man, the working with your brother, like I am just so blown away at seeing both of you and both of your personalities and hearing his story and your story. And I'm just like, it's just wild to me. It really is. I'm just like, huh? And what if I didn't make that decision? I wouldn't have met these two guys, just to make this random oddball decision to go do performance magic. And it's just really funny. I'm like, these guys are like, they're real, and I don't know how people detect that, for themselves, but I'm just like, man, these guys are really, really real about who they are and what they do. And it's just comical to me because it reminds me that it is real. You can do this, and there's people. It's not. There's a lot of hard work, but it pays off when you go to do that performance because that's what the hard work was for. Was for that
Mhm.
1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I've done that with you.
Yeah.
That when you're just like, huh, like 4 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Some bitches just love that. Some bitches just love just showing up somewhere and just staying there for like the entire time. They're like less pressure to get, see as many people in that hour or whatever it might be. But actually, it's an interesting question. I mean,
Interesting.
you've done a lot of different spectrums of things. Is there a preferred time frame? Like, what do you think is a good length of time for doing walk around magic?
Wow. I think an hour is a good length of time. Between 40 to 50 minutes so you can get around to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I should mention, um, it was my daughter's college freshman year, the first year I brought her there, and I believe it was Michael Kent, and he was
Hmm.
just getting started in Magic, and he
Hmm.
was driving from Ohio to Florida and back, and he
Hmm.
said he basically had like 3 or 4 effects, and he would just do walk around Magic and perform for people. So when I was trying to learn, like, okay, well, how do you do a show?
Hmm.
And he just broke it down for me, these 3 effects that you have. And so that's kind of how I looked at doing a walk around show, in
Hmm.
that I would have 3 to 4 effects that all work with each other. And
Hmm.
then I can circle around to different pockets of people, do that effect, and then circle back around to the same pocket of people with another 3 or 4 effects that tie into each other. And then
Hmm.
on the third pass, you do it again. And then I try to close with one large effect that everybody can see, if the event calls for it and they're interested
Hmm.
with it. That way they get to see one thing collectively together, and then you can leave.
Hmm.
And then that was really the style that I tried to go with, that seemed to work the best in trying to get around to people as well as show them a lot of stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. It's interesting. So I mean, to that point, I think what's key about the question I asked was, you're mentioning the hours. You'd say about an hour is good, but it sounds like it depends on the size of the audience because you want to make sure
Yeah.
that you have an opportunity to see the people. So how I mean, how you talked about these three rounds of effects. How long do you think each of those routines, I'm going to call them routine because that's what we call it in Magic World, those three effects together in a routine or those that affect together, how much time do you think you spend with each group as you move around?
I think it's about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
It's not long at all, because I
Hmm.
know that you want people to miss you, as well as at the event. There's so much other things going on that
Hmm.
I don't try not to take them from that.
Hmm.
I want to make sure that they got to see something, and you let that marinate with them. They want to talk about it. They want to move around. They want to finish their drink. They want to get another hors d'oeuvre.
Hmm.
There's just so many different things happening that you look for pockets of people that need some entertainment and carry a conversation. People have awkward conversations with one another, unless they're just around a bunch of their buddies, right?
Hmm.
But let's say it's at a wedding, you're coupled at a different table with a bunch of people you don't know. You've got family from one side, that another side, that are being merged together. And then within that group, sometimes somebody's not speaking to the other person, but they have to
Hmm.
be there to get. So
Hmm.
I'm really scientifically trying to look for those awkward opportunities to fill the gaps, so that the event people say they were really a part of making this a special,
Hmm.
something special.
Hmm.
Long lines at the buffet. You
Hmm.
kind of go work the line and make the time pass. And I just I just think about all the things that I do where I'm like, man, this is just dragging. And when I would just break out the magic. My wife will just look at me like, oh no, oh, there's a dead spot. He's about to do some magic.
That's funny. Yeah, so what's funny is that you're touching on something that we really express to clients often, and you're doing it without realizing what the true purpose is, I guess. Um,
Yes.
in events like that, like a wedding or like a corporate event or something like that, where they don't know each other or there's awkward moments, people don't have something to talk about. And they don't
Right.
have what I like to say to people is this shared experience, this shared, moment that they can now, discuss. So that's what you're
Yeah.
doing is, and we always talk about breaking the ice and things like that, but what it is giving the people something to be like, oh, did you see that? Or what'd you think of that? Or how this, now you're sparking conversation, which will I mean, every conversation kind of, leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. So it can actually gives an opportunity for people to spark a conversation. And then even people that are outside of that specific group can then be like, did you see the magician? Did he do that? Did you get this card? Did you get that? Did you? So you have an
Right.
opportunity. So it really does give a unique opportunity for a shared experience, which I think is the biggest benefit of having something like yourself there, especially if you're
Absolutely.
your energy and stuff like that. It makes people excited and happy, and that's, I think, big part of it. You mentioned weddings, and from my understanding, there's a story about a wedding that is a cool story with a groom. You mind
Yeah.
sharing the story?
The wow, it was, oh my God, it still like gives me chills thinking about it. Because the wife wanted to hire a magician because the husband or the new husband was a huge fan of magic. And they reached out to Magical Memories, and I got the call. And, I was told that's what it was. That you're a very special part of this, and I was like, okay, I'm like, I thought the wedding was the very special part. And when they introduced me, he just started
Mhm.
weeping real tears. And I know deep down inside it was because he saw his future with her, because
Oh.
she showed him that she's always going to be thinking of him first. And I'm sure that's how he was with her. They came out to Star Wars music, which was absolutely amazing. So they were fantasy world kind of couple. So the
Mhm, mhm,
magical part, being introduced, but still, I got to experience that moment.
mhm.
And I don't, that's the joy that, you're like, okay, well, now I have a lot to live up to.
Did you have a special trick that you did for him, or is there something special you did for
Yeah,
the groom?
I always will have something special to perform, especially when they let me know that this is the bride or the groom loves magic. And of course, I had probably some type of ambitious card routine, but
Mm.
whatever it was, he absolutely loved it. I always try to also stay as original, because with
Mhm.
YouTube now, and people can research magic, you're really not gonna have a good time if you kind of stick with standard routines that anybody can look up on YouTube.
Mhm.
So whatever I had done for him that day was fairly unique to me, the way that it was performed, and he had a good time, and the guests as well had a good, because it helped set the expectation that whatever he saw, they all wanted to see as well. And
Mhm.
the I would say the second one was it was I don't want to, I want to protect the family, so to speak. So we'll just say birthday boy. And he was a part of the effect, and he laughed so hard, he's began to weep. And now we're all weeping, because it was such a beautiful moment that I got to share in. And I always say, I'm honored, and I don't think that I really truly learned what that meant, when I would
Mhm.
speak to people that were performers or something, or an athlete you meet for the first time, and they say, I'm honored to meet you. And you're like, huh? You're the superstar or something, what do you mean? And until that moment, that's when I learned what people meant when they say, no, I'm actually honored to be in your presence, because I truly was honored to be in their presence. I'm truly honored to be in anybody's presence when it comes to doing magic, because you could have chosen anybody else, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it could have been anybody else. So you never take it lightly. It's always, no, this was important. I'm blessed because you chose me.
That's so great. I love that, and I love the how humble that is. And yeah, I mean, the idea that you're there to serve, not to get accolades from people, I think is really really cool and really the right mentality to have. Um, that's so great. Is there something, if thinking back on your events, is there something that you can think about that really makes you say, like, you mentioned so many things. I don't want to. I'm trying to phrase it in a way that's different. Something that really makes you come back to doing this. Is there something, the smiles, the amazement, but is there like something deeper? I guess is there some reason that you like? Because it's tough sometimes. I mean, at the end of the day,
Right.
events are tough. As much as people say like, oh, you party for, when I back in the day, not so much nowadays, but back in the day, people always, oh, you party for a living. That's what you do. And like for me, and I'm like, a lot more work than that. But yeah, I mean, but then thinking back on it, there are good days, bad days, things like that. Is there a reason that you overcome that? You mentioned this is not your all the time thing. So what's
Right.
your kind of driving force beyond, that makes you come back and makes you say, hey, you know what, this is my thing.
I enjoy learning new effects, and in learning a new effect, well, you're gonna need an opportunity to perform that effect
That's a
because
good
it's
one. I
so
like that
new.
answer.
Right? So you went and learned this thing, and I want to go and perform it, and I always want to
Mhm.
evolve. I want people to be able to see something new, something a little bit different, something that they may have missed before. And I
Mhm.
think one of the most freeing things I had ever heard was from David Blaine. Somebody had asked
Mhm.
him, "Do you ever make a mistake on an effect?" And he said he makes a mistake on every effect. And I was blown away by that. I'm like, you're David Blaine, dude. And this was like years after he became David Blaine. He's saying, I'm making a
Mhm.
mistake on every effect. And what that translated to me, of course, was like, hey, it's okay if there's a mistake, but more so that you can always get better, right? I want to
Mhm.
be able to perform better than the last time I did the effect, right? Because
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
never
Mhm.
know. You always have to change. You never know when, certain, like if certain lines you may use may not work for a different group. So you want to be able to
Mhm.
evolve into a different line, and you want to see how these
Mhm.
effects work with somebody else. What is their response
Mhm.
to it? Sometimes I do an effect and there's just total silence, because people are so awed and amazed that their mind is just processing what's going on. Other people, again, start laughing. And so you're like, okay, that drew a laugh, that drew a cry, that drew a sigh, that drew absolute puzzle. So it's like you just get to see something different every single time. And that's what I love about it too. It's just so intriguing what we do. And you're like, wow, that
Mhm.
was the response. And I even respond differently when I see stuff, where
Mhm.
I'm just like, man, I don't know, my brain hurts. I loved it, but I can't even process what just happened.
That's true. I agree with you 100% on that one. That's yeah. And I have the same feeling when it comes to like seeing new things. It's interesting. You really said something that resonated with me, that made me curious more. I guess is probably the right word to say. Is you spoke about improving and always getting better and always wanting to get better. We've spoke about struggles here, and this isn't the easiest always. Is there a time that you can think back on? Either an event or an effect or a show of some sort or whatever it might be, where it started off poorly or started off difficultly. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know if that's the real word, but anyway, if it started off poorly and then you were able to overcome it and have a really successful end result.
Wow, that's an amazing question. Definitely when it, I would say it's the kids' parties.
Okay.
Because especially, the kids just react. And it's always, I seen this one.
Hmm.
And so it always starts out like that. Somebody always wants to yell, I've seen this one. You're like, oh, great. How much of it have you seen? And are you going to shout out what's going to happen? But
Well, I
here's
mean,
what
if you pull out a deck of cards, the kids say, "I've seen this one." You're like,
the,
"It's
the,
impossible. You don't know."
yeah, you don't know. And I even feel that with a lot of the other effects that I do,
Hmm.
but I have such a different spin and twist
Hmm.
that even though they say it, it's now helping me because
Hmm.
they begin to almost call out what they think's about to happen. So now even adults kind of go that way with the child. Not sure why
Hmm.
they're listening to a child, but they go that way with the child, right? Oh, the kid's seen it.
Uh,
Oh, he knows everything, right? But then when I finish the effect and it's something that nobody has ever actually seen before, then they're
mhm,
all blown away. So it's like they
mhm,
began to do the work for you in setting it up because they're like,
mhm.
oh, yeah, I've seen this. This is going to have it there or whatever. And it blows them away. And I would have to say my favorite one where that happens will be Silk to Egg. The kids
Mhm.
will start to, envision what's going on. But let's face it, nobody's seeing you break it, coming up with the egg's going to break at the end. But
Yep.
they all say, oh, yeah, the other handkerchief's over there. And there's a
Yep.
fake one. There's just
Yep. Yep.
weird stuff they like to call out, especially, and again, of course, like you said, the card magic, like you've never
Yeah.
seen this. And even if you have seen it, you haven't seen me do it. And I think
It's true.
that's the only thing. And I got that from I laughed to myself because I played fighting games, specifically Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
And I lost to this guy, and he did what's known as a fatality, a finishing move that is ultimate destruction. But we've all been playing this game it came out in 92, right? So the guy beat me. I was upset, and I just wanted to say something to get under his skin. So I said, "Oh, come on, man. How many times have you probably seen that fatality? You're that low down. You need to feel better about yourself and do it again." He's like, "But I've never seen it against you." He stopped me dead in my tracks, dude. So now he beat me twice because he beat me in the game and then he beat me in the trash talk. But he said something I'll never forget. I should send him an email thank you. And that is, no matter what you say when it comes down to I've seen this before, but you haven't seen me do it. And that's how I say it. That is so freeing. You haven't seen this before because you haven't seen me do it. And if you've seen me do it, I don't think I've done anything exactly the same way
Sure.
before twice.
Yeah.
So it is unique.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. That it's like a snowflake, it's everyone's unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you're real bold talking about snow right now with all that snow out there.
Yeah. So that's great. I love that. Now, let me ask you. I mean, is there something? Okay, so I'm gonna push it back a little bit and say, is there something specific? Is there a specific event that you can think of? Something that you like, an actual event that you're like walked into and you're like, oh no, this is gonna be rough. Or maybe you interacted with the first, guest and you're like, this is gonna be not good. And at the end, you were like, this was great. Uh, can you think of anything like that?
uh, um, that's interesting. I don't think so. Ultimately, because the way you guys establish the events that we're doing,
Hmm.
you let them. You do a great job of letting them know and setting the expectations. And I think that that's the only thing. I would have to say that okay, because there's one I couldn't win over that I didn't think of how to win over whatsoever. And that was really like one of the very first events that we did together and
Hmm.
there happened to be a petting zoo next door and at the
Ah,
petting zoo as part of the event.
sure.
And I'm a kids magician. I could do a kids shows, but I don't have any animals.
Hmm.
I've seen kids shows with animals. They
Hmm.
hit every time. You know, I just don't have the capacity to take care of the animals.
Sure.
So, and I think that was a very challenging moment because the parents didn't really assist in helping for that event,
Hmm.
in trying to maintain for the kids. I had learned a lot from that. I just learned that okay, well, I am here to do the magic. I'm just going to do the magic, and if they don't assist in that,
Hmm.
that's not my job. If you guys want to have a good event, you'll pay attention to say, okay, well, we brought this guy in to do magic, but we're not allowing him to do magic.
Hmm.
And I think it was unfortunate because they still saw everything, but they didn't necessarily enjoy it. Even though I'm like, I just did mind blowing effects, but you guys didn't enjoy it because you're too busy looking at what's going on with the petting zoo,
Hmm.
that you kept like right there and kept open at the time. And
Hmm.
it wasn't like a major event where you may have 75 people there or something, and then
Hmm.
10 or 15 will come over to the magic where all
Hmm.
everybody else wants to go pet the llama. you know. So
Mhm.
I would say that that would be the only one. But for the majority of these situations that we've set up, you know,
Mhm.
again, you do a great job in setting the expectations, and to that,
Mhm.
I'm totally thankful because I really haven't had that level of a negative experience where you have to turn somebody around. You know, I think
Mhm.
that, well, if you hired Magic, then that you wanted it. You know,
Mhm.
and that
Sure.
helps. It helps a lot, right? Like, oh, you
Yeah.
didn't really want a magician, you wanted what then exactly?
Uh, yes, I mean I 100% agree with you on that. Setting expectations is a key thing, and I think that's huge. You said a couple things just that I expand on. You know, the first being is advice for I'm gonna do a two part to this. One is, what was something that you learned from that situation? Is, if you could go back or if you could change that, since you said it was early on in your career and doing this with us or just in general, how would you have handled that situation differently?
I think that I also had one effect in that time that wasn't necessarily controlled enough
Mm.
because it involved audience participation, but
Hmm.
I ended up having too many kids involved in the effect. And the
Hmm.
rest of the kids that weren't involved were kids that really, it was like an age gap where I had the older
Mm.
kids helping and the younger kids who don't necessarily understand magic watching. So
Hmm.
because of that, they kind of wandered off and wanted to go pet
Mm.
animals. Where the older
Hmm.
kids were kind of helping with the effect. So then I basically had lost that audience. And I
Hmm.
think that part came down to picking volunteers better
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
because
That
had
makes
I
sense.
maybe picked the littler ones, which I can control a little bit more, you tell a littler kid to do something, they're just going to do it. Older kids are kind of going to be
Hmm.
like, why am I doing it? Or hold on, or mess it up. You know, while the younger kids are watching and they don't understand, they're like, I'm done. I don't know what's going on here. So there was a lot there where I was like, okay, definitely picking about better volunteers at that point was
Hmm.
key. And eliminating the petting zoo. Or get a bunny.
Yeah. I think you could shut down the petting zoo for a period of time while the magic show's going on. I think is probably the way to go about that. But so that drives me to my next question for you is that, you doing all these events, is there a piece of advice? I usually pull this at the end, but it seems like a very appropriate time. Is there a piece of advice you can give to a client who is booking a magician or you specifically, that you've learned from previous events that maybe they don't realize, they don't know, they should know, or they benefit from knowing?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I think the timing and expectations is always going to be the key because there's a lot going on. You know, are they the background? Are they the main event? You know, what exactly are your
Mhm.
expectations, and who wants to see magic? You know, that's a good key too. You know, like who are
Mhm.
they the ones that want to see it? Are you hiring me for the guests and the reception? That's who wants to see it. Just always
Mhm.
setting the expectations, I think, is always going to be the key. Um, Even when certain gigs that I book on my own, it's just always trying to set a good expectation and letting people know,
Mhm.
what's going to happen. Uh, and say,
Mhm.
look, we're here to have a great time. Luckily, again, I just haven't necessarily had those negative experiences in that manner, which I would want to avoid. But I think even generally from the professionals in the business that I have spoken with, uh,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever heard of any bad experiences. Mainly, the only ones I would have heard of would be from the magicians that have a different expectation for themselves and the events. You know, maybe
Mm.
they're
Interesting.
doing it for money. You know, we're all getting paid, but it's they don't care. They figure, and a lot of people do that, right? They figure out, oh, I need to make money. Oh, I can go learn a trick. They're self working. You can buy a prop, read the
Mhm.
script, be a magician, get
Mhm.
money. You know,
Mhm.
it's really a
Mhm.
lot of truth to that. Get the coloring book, you're fine. You know, and I think that the problems happen from that and not necessarily from, hey, this is something I love doing. I want to make sure you have a great event. and
Hmm.
here's the expectations of what you get, and if that's what you want, then that's what you're going to get.
Beautiful. That's amazing. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, that is a big differentiator. I mean, that's a big differentiator, I think, from certain companies that are out there. And I'd love to talk about, your experience with Magic Memories just because you've worked so much with us and, the way you've been talking about it. I'd love to just kind of hear more about that. But before we get into
Mhm.
that, I just wanted to say like that I think it's really interesting because you touched on that idea of like, your passion for it, your interest in it versus just doing it for money. And I know I see on these like Facebook mom groups and different kinds of organizations like, oh, there's this such and such, company and they're so much cheaper than other performers and companies out there. What's people's experience with that and stuff like that. And I think that's really something kind of important to note is that it's not just about price because I mean, yeah, like I'd said before, the right tool for the right job. Yes, there's price is a factor, and sometimes you have the right person for the right price point, whatever. But what I think more
Yes.
importantly there is ensuring that you get somebody that has true passion behind it. Fortunately, as you say, as I said before, and for me, it's my passion is really delivering that for everybody and bringing joy to the world. But also having people that support that passion as well, like yourself. So
Right.
I think that's really great. Now talking about the company, and I would love to just understand, how if you talk about it in general, how has your experience been working with Magical Memories as a booking person?
With Magical Memories, one of the earliest things that happened to me was when you end up doing the event where you've brought in multiple vendors
Hmm.
and you've got, a plethora of legacy vendors that,
Hmm.
bounce around to a lot of gigs with you. And I've been able
Hmm.
to meet them. And it was what they shared with me that they didn't have to do. They don't
Hmm.
know me. They don't have to do any of that. But
Hmm.
again, it's they see us together as a family, and
Hmm.
we're going to do this together. Here's some things you should know. Here's some things you need to know. Here's how you will grow. Nothing negative. There was just these are Steve's expectations, right? Yeah, right. You're a business owner. You have expectations, and it's like, hey, as long as those expectations are being met, you're gonna do fine. But the people that I've worked with on multiple occasions, and they've been coming back, and they enjoy what they do, and they do it for you and they shared their experiences and they were far more professionals that had done it for a greater length of time until
Hmm.
eventually maybe I'll be that guy that that sees somebody new coming in that hasn't worked with Magical Memories and maybe they're a little bit nervous and you get to calm them down a little bit and watch them grow as well and you become somewhat of a mentor. But I think that that's one of the things that I've experienced the most that I love is I'm like, wow, this is such a weird random team to be a part of. And I say weird and random in that how do you become a part of this in your life? It's easy, in a corporate world, you go, you put in your resume automatically, once you get hired, you're on the team, and you see these people every day.
Hmm.
Whereas with Magical Memories, I might not see these groups of people again for another 3 or 4 months, maybe another year,
Hmm. Hmm.
where you see somebody, but you see them and oh yeah, we're doing a Magical Memories event. This is going to be epic. I don't know, and that's like a tall order, but that is my energy level,
Hmm.
and when I do these things and when I go, it's like, no, I know that there's going to be a party going on and there's going to be a lot of entertainment, things to enjoy, a lot of cool things you haven't seen. So enjoy that moment. Don't, just
That's beautiful.
really go for it. Leave nothing undone, and you don't want to walk away saying, oh, I wish I had done that. And I actually walk away going, I can't believe I didn't get to that because people wanted to see so much stuff or see something
Hmm.
even again, or where I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even get to this. It wasn't that, oh, I should have did it. It's just,
Yeah.
oh man, the crowd, the audience, the group, and they all work together.
Hmm. Hmm. That is so cool. I really love to hear that. And I mean, I would love to hear what the insight people gave you on my expectations. But uh it's always me being curious. But that being said, I think what I love that you said, and I have always preached this. So if to hear that from you, on unprompted is really cool to hear that. I always tell people like we are family. I tell everybody all the time. That's my mantra is that I love to feel like you're part of my family. You're part of my the Magical Memories family. But we truly are part of this family. We're here to work together. We're here to support each other. We're here to make each other better. And I'm really so unbelievably happy to hear you say that that has been translated to people and over time more and more people that you've seen interact with have helped you to feel that way and then share that well I mean I haven't yet to future share that with other people as well to have that mentality just
Right.
naturally come through and I think that's huge
Yeah,
also I
they
think it's a
really
huge
have.
yeah, I think that's a huge differentiator too, is that the difference between people that have that same theory and mentality and that passion for it really does allow for a better event because you want to support somebody. When the photographer is at an event, let's hear at a wedding, and you're doing the magic, and the photographer's there, but you're gonna you know that photographer from previous event, you're gonna go grab and be like, oh, this is a great moment, catch that. As opposed
Right.
to somebody that you don't know them, you might feel uncomfortable, you might feel that right moment, but if you have that opportunity to connect and be like, hey, let's do that. Hey, I know Steve would love this. Videotape this and we'll
Yeah.
send it to him kind of thing. So that kind of stuff, I love
Again,
that
it is
idea.
totally
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a reference point with no pressure to say, oh, hey, there's something going on there. You have an opportunity to check it out,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just amazing to not. It's competitive, but not competitive. It's
Mm,
there. Everybody's wants everybody else's business, but it's
sure.
not competitive within the organization. When I look
Mm-hmm.
at all the other guys that are doing stuff, and I'm just like, they're not competing because there's always just another level in that's what I have learned that
Mm-hmm.
there was a level that I started at that I just can't do anymore because I've gone to
Mm-hmm.
a different level, which makes room for somebody else to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing where people have been able to say, oh, they can't make it, but you know what, John's available, let's give him a call,
Mm-hmm.
and that just means that you've just gone to another level. So it's not just that we're a family, it's a true family grows. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I've experienced, through Magical Memories is growth. I definitely don't think I'm at the same level I was, when I got started. I have grown because I look and I watch everything you do on Instagram, LinkedIn, right? Like nobody, and which is crazy because on LinkedIn it's more corporates and nonprofits, major
Mm-hmm.
corporations, and not necessarily the entertainment company the way that I see it, where I'm like, no, that's one of the best places to be because all of these corporations are there, and
Mm-hmm.
so and I'm like, and they should follow more, just to keep it in the back of the mind. So I love what you're doing on LinkedIn, between I'm sure because I'm a digital guy, they get posted everywhere. But typically, that's where I spend most of my time is on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see that stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's going on over there. That's the event that happened. This is what they did for that style,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to learn so much. You really get to learn what Magical Memories is all about.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. Oh, thank you for that. That validates a lot of hard work we put in. So I love to hear that. Um, you
One
said,
more thing, because you said
yeah.
we put in, I talked a lot about the staff at the events, but the staff that text me, call me, whatever, all that administrative staff, I'm still not sure how you do it. That it's magical to me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
You know,
blessed.
I'm
I
like,
tell people all the time. It's not just me. I mean, as much as I try to be I say I'm like the Wizard of Oz. The best way to describe it. I'm the big face behind the curtains. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's
so
how I
they
am.
deserve a shout out, man. That administration squad. I still don't know what's going on back there, but they all, whoever it is, I get, I hear from. I'm familiar with a lot of the names. I hear from somebody, but they deserve a shout out. That's all
Hmm.
I'm getting at. So make
Yeah.
sure that they know that too.
I appreciate that, and I definitely will share that with them because I think that's true. That is a huge part of it. I mean, it's a huge part of all the things you've described. So, setting yourself up for success, allowing you to have the right expectations set. That's a key part that I love to hear you saying because that is something that we preach and we talk about in the back office from foundation from like the initial phone call with the client to completion of the event and then follow up afterwards, that whole process, the most important thing is trying to set the right expectation. And like we touched on a second ago, we talked about before, it was, the right person for that role. So, when you've not, you might have started at a certain point, but you evolved out of it and you've grown out of it. But that doesn't mean you're not, no longer you're more valuable tool. You're more of a Swiss Army knife than you were when you were just the wrench. You know what I mean? So you're able to grow out of it, and I think that's a big part also is understanding that. That growth and being able to see that, which it's so great to hear that you can see that and understand that, which is something I don't think everybody quite gets, because you're absolutely right. Some people feel, like, why didn't I get that opportunity? Why did that person get that one or that person get that one? And I think for us, it's always, I always tell clients, and I tell my team this all the time, is that the biggest thing that, we need to do is we're here to deliver a client's vision. And it's the hardest part is trying to translate that vision into a reality. And that's what all of the work that our back office team does, is to get to that reality. And then you guys, performer wise, the performers are the ones that are executing that reality. And how do you have to, that back office team has to translate that in the right way to make sure that you're set up for success, because that's the most important thing, for you to be set up for success.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a while. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to jump on here and to chat with me for a bit. Let me ask you, is there any other final thoughts that you'd like to share with everybody?
No, I know that it's sometimes can sound like a love fest of, hey, you're doing great. Oh, you're doing great. And we love what you do. I love what you do. But it really is true. It's because we haven't had opportunity like this to talk, because and again, look at your growth, right? Now you're at a level of where you're creating a podcast system, where it's everything, everybody's doing it, but you didn't jump on it because everybody was doing it. You jumped on it because it was time to do it. You're at that level where you want to be able to host these things and give people stronger insight to what's going on at Magical Memories. So again, to see that growth, just like I told you, it's real to talk about it. I love being a part of something like that, to say, wow, I came in at this point before they were doing that. I'm sure you have people with you that are like, no, I came in when there wasn't even any of that, and look where it is now. And I think a lot of people end up missing out on that in life in general, in that they don't necessarily look to be a part of something that they can help grow and grow along with. So I'm excited to be a part of that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll give you a little insight, is that I started this primarily because I miss these interactions. One of my favorite things about this industry and doing this kind of thing is seeing and hearing people and having the opportunity to give people the opportunity to connect them to what they're passionate about. Right. So and I love, throughout this conversation, I mean, I had chills at different points. We're hearing you describe the experiences you've gone through, reliving it. I could see it in your eyes and your face, reliving a moment. And that truly is one of my driving forces. It's not just about the client end of it, but it's also about the vendor, or the performer end of it. That's because great. Both of people, the people that are out there want this experience. Yeah. But they have no idea how to do it. So, or how to get what they want, and visions and stuff like that. And I talk about, like, really delivering the vision. So people don't necessarily know how to get to that. So, our job is to be that translator, but there are people out there on the other side of it. The vendors have this extreme passion and are good at what they do and love to do it, but they don't know how to translate that or how to decipher what a client wants. So right. there's sometimes a mismatch, which is where that, the discrepancy comes from. Indeed. So I love being that middle person to see both the client end of it, where the people are happy, but also the vendor end, when you can sit here and be like, oh my God, there's this time with the groom who just cried. I'm like, I love that story, because I never knew about that. And to hear you say that really means a lot to me. And I love to hear it. And really, like I said, that's the reason I'm doing this whole thing. It's just to hear these stories and let, obviously I'd like to share it with everybody else, but be a little selfish in it. I like to be the one that, hears and gets to experience it myself. So
yeah, it's, being able to do a great performance is one way of giving back, but being able to also do something like this and let is another way to give back, and make you feel, appreciated. You know?
Well, I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you again for being on here. Thank you again for all your time, and of course, thank you for always lending your services and lending your skills to all the events that we do. So I look forward to many more of those, and I appreciate you being on.
Man.
Thanks,
Appreciate you too, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Magical Memories Unlocked. You've been watching with John. John is, once again, he is an amazing walk-around magician, does stage shows, kids shows, all the fun stuff. If you want to have John at your next event, make sure you hit us up. We'd love to connect you back to him. Thank you all for being on here, and until next time, I'll see you guys.
Thanks for listening to Magical Memories Unlocked. This guide to event success is so helpful, some are shocked. Planning something big, we're here for you, with ideas and tips to make your vision come true. Magical Memories Entertainment is the team to make all your